Hey, welcome back. Welcome back. This is Steve. Welcome to my cooking show. Again, remember the theme here is during lockdown, I'm just preparing very simple meals that you can cook at home. You can try, share your recipes, just make it fun. And that's what I've done. So I'm not a chef, but I have a really good time doing this. I go online and look up recipes that I enjoy, or I actually just bring recipes that I've had from the past, just in trial and error. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, I also introduced my mom's recipe too. So if you have a recipe you want me to try, send it in. So today, this is going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to this. Got a theme going on. I know I've got the red. And today we're going to be New Orleans' own crawfish broil, or boil, I should say. Difference between a broil and a boil. Boil, along with shrimp. So I'm taking about 1.5 pounds, because that's all they have at the market, of crawfish, and about 1.5 pounds of shrimp here. And just as a side dish, I'm going to dice up the steak and season it really good. So the other things I'm bringing in, or the ingredients that you'll need to cook this, and I'll give you all the details in my story. You need a crab boil seasoning, which basically Zantarines is the ones that I was referred to by the most Cajun friend that I know. Red potatoes, which will be diced in about thirds. 2 to 3 inch corn, 3 ears of corn diced. Of course, you got the lemon circles. 1 average size garlic that is just separated but not crushed or grated. And then I have some crawfish spice and lemon pepper. I think that's all the ingredients here. Now, there's a reason for this, and I'm dedicating this to my good friends on the other side of the world. So Stephen and Bay, if you're watching this, hopefully you will, I'm sure you will, I'm going to dedicate this to you. So I'm going to tell you all a story to make this even more interesting. In 2014, I took a trip over to the Philippines. This is just before I decided to come up north and move my entire world. And when I was there, I had been away from home for about 3 weeks. First time I'd been gone away from the United States for that long. And after you're gone for a while, you kind of start missing people that can actually speak proper English. I'm not being rude, I'm just saying, someone that can share your traditions, your ideals. And I happened to be driving a motorcycle that I rented from a family on the seaside. And I come into this town, I'm with a friend, and we get into this town, and I see this van. This van's on the side of the road, and I see that people are getting out of the van, and they're getting snorkel gear. So I figure that they are, tourists. I'm thinking, wow, maybe I'll meet someone that is from the United States. So I come in there, and I peek into the van, and I look at the ledger, and I see on the ledger, there is someone from Houston, Texas, someone from the United States. And I pop my head into the van, and I look back, and all I see is, Koreans and Japanese and Chinese. But way in the back, I said, is anyone from Houston? And Stephen and Van pop their heads out and they go, we are. And anyways, so it was such a simple meeting, and we got to talking, and I ended up joining them for the rest of the day as we did some island hopping there in the Philippines. We spent that day together, and Stephen and I were like, brothers that hadn't met yet. I mean, we hit it off that well, and it was so comfortable meeting him and Bea, and they were just dating at the time. And so at the end of our day together, and we ended up traveling to other places there in Palawan, in fact. In fact, we had been at the same restaurant the night before without even knowing. But anyhow, at the end of our time, they invited me to meet them in Manila when I was ready to head home. And so after exchanging information and staying in contact with them on Facebook, I decided to go ahead and go to Manila. So I went to Manila. They treated me like a king. They showed me all over, and we had a wonderful time. And when I left there, I knew I had met friends or people that would be my friends forever. So a year later, I'm in New Orleans. I think it was actually less than a year later. I'm in New Orleans for a conference of our company, and Stephen happened to be in Houston. He was back because he was living in the Philippines, even though he's from the U.S., retired Air Force pilot, and he happened to be in Houston. However, he was originally from New Orleans, so it was amazing. I'm in New Orleans. He takes the drive 3 hours in New Orleans, 3 or 4 hours, and it shows me a great time. It's great. New Orleans is fun, but he actually showed me the real New Orleans. All the authentic, the po' boys, and a lot of the authentic food. So we had a great time. We have some pictures that maybe I'll post it along with this story, so that you can laugh about some of our experiences. Anyhow, so we spent the time together, and Steve tells me that he's gonna marry Bea, and I'm excited, and he invites me to the wedding. So here I am later on that year. Might have been I think it was late 2015. Anyhow, so we're back in Palawan, and the wedding was amazing. They were such great hosts. The family was beautiful, and the resort was just amazing. So Steve comes up to me, right before the wedding and says, "Hey, would you mind saying a word? We're such close friends now." And I thought, wow, I'd be honored. I got to meet one of his best friend, or his best friend, Carl, who was the best man, and we just hit it off. And so I said, "I'll say a word." So I come up, after the wedding, and during the reception, and everyone there kind of knew the story. And I had a few to drink, but I was very emotional. And I got up and the first thing I do is I grab the microphone, and I'm looking out at everyone there that's there for Stephen and Bea, and I just said, "Hey, is anyone from Houston?" and the people who knew the story, they started laughing, and the guys were laughing, and Stephen, and then there was I got emotional because it was an emotional time. But my message to them was this: I had been away from home, like I said, for about 3 weeks, and I was looking for something familiar. So when I popped my head in that van, and I said, "Hey, who's from Houston?" I was looking for someone that was familiar, something that made me feel like home. I was a little lonely. And so my message there was that that's what Stephen was looking for in life, and he found it. He found his familiarity. He found his Houston in Bea. So they got married. It was a beautiful wedding, and that was my message. And anyhow, so I'm dedicating this meal and to Stephen and Bea, because Stephen is from New Orleans. He introduced me to a lot of the authentic New Orleans cuisine, as opposed to just the main strip there. And for his birthday later this year in October, we are planning to go and visit him. Not a surprise, he knows it already, but we're going to be traveling with him and Bea. So anyways, enjoy the cooking. I'll come back in a few minutes and I'll show you the prepared portions to this, and we'll finish up the conversation. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.